My dad burst into my room at midnight yelling, "Your mother is devastated by what she found on your laptop. Explain yourself." I was terrified. Walked to the kitchen trembling. On the screen was my father burst into my room at midnight, and for a split second, I thought someone had died. "Your mother is devastated by what she found on your laptop." His voice was shaking with rage. "Get downstairs. Now. Explain yourself." I sat up in bed, heart pounding. My laptop, the folder, 3 months of work. They'd found it. I walked to the kitchen on legs that didn't feel like my own. Every step felt like walking toward an execution. My stepmother Carol sat at the table, mascara running down her cheeks in perfect black rivers, tissues clutched in her hand like props. My laptop was open in front of her, and on the screen, laid out in damning detail, was everything I'd spent 93 days collecting. "Why do you have photos of my banking information?" Carol sobbed. "Screenshots of my private emails? You've been stalking me, haven't you? This is sick." I looked at the evidence on the screen. Bank statements, transaction records, email exchanges, pawnshop receipts, all of it organized into subfolders with dates and annotations. 3 months of my life, building a case against the woman who'd stolen my mother's memory. "This is harassment," Carol continued, her voice rising. "I want her out of this house. Tonight." Dad stood behind her, arms crossed, face like stone. The man who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd held me when Mom died, who'd promised me at her funeral that we'd get through this together. He was looking at me like I was a stranger. "I think," he said coldly, "you need to explain yourself." My hands were shaking, but I'd prepared for this moment, hoped it wouldn't come this way, but prepared nonetheless. "Mom died 2 years ago," I said. "She left me $200,000 in a trust for college." "Don't you dare bring your mother into this," Dad snapped. "The trust was supposed to have $200,000. I checked last month with Mr. Okafor at the bank." I took a breath. "There's only $38,000 left." Silence. Carol laughed. Actually laughed. "That's absurd. You're making up lies to attack me because you've never accepted our marriage." "I have bank statements," I said. My voice was shaking, but I kept going. "Right there in that folder. Withdrawals every month for 18 months. Always $10,000. Always transferred to account number ending in 7734. Dad's jaw tightened. "Those are administrative fees, investment management costs. Your mother set it up that way." "No." I stepped toward the laptop, clicked to the next image. "That account number, 7734, belongs to Carol. Her personal checking account at First National." Carol's crying stopped, like someone had flipped a switch. "You went through my mail?" "I went through the recycling bin. Found your bank statements. You weren't even trying to hide them." I watched my father's face change, confusion cracking through the anger. "This is fabricated," Carol said quickly, recovering. "She photoshopped everything. She's been obsessed with ruining our marriage since day one. Ask Dr. Reeves. She's clearly having some kind of breakdown. I found your emails too." I pulled up more screenshots. "To someone named Marcus. You told him you'd have the full $200,000 by April, that you'd leave Dad once Mom's money was drained." Dad grabbed the laptop, started scrolling through the folder. His face went from angry to confused to something I'd never seen before. "Those emails are fabricated." Carol's voice pitched higher. "Anyone can fake an email. This proves nothing. The metadata is embedded in the screenshots. Timestamps, IP addresses. They trace back to your home computer, the one in your office that you think I don't know the password to." I clicked to the next subfolder. "And this?" I said. "Mom's engagement ring, her pearl necklace, her grandmother's bracelet, all sold to Morrison Pawn and Gold downtown for $85,000. Dad's face went white. "You told me those were stolen. We filed a police report. We claimed insurance. The receipts are right here." I pulled them up. "Your signature, your driver's license, photo ID required for transactions over $500. They keep copies of everything." Carol backed toward the kitchen door. Her mask was slipping. I could see it in her eyes. The calculation, the desperation. "You had no right to go through my things. You had no right to steal from my dead mother." Something in her broke then. The sobbing housewife disappeared. What replaced her was something cold and hard and real. "I needed that money," she snapped. "You think your father gives me anything? Everything goes to you. New laptop, new car, SAT tutors, private school applications. What about me? I gave up my life to move into this house and play mommy to a teenager who hates me. What about you?" My voice cracked despite everything. "You married my dad 6 months after Mom died. You said you'd take care of me like your own daughter. You held my hand at her grave and told me she'd want you to look after me." "Please," Carol rolled her eyes. "Your father was lonely and desperate and drowning in medical debt. The insurance money was sitting there. The trust was just sitting there. Why should it go to some ungrateful kid who treats me like garbage?" Dad stood up slowly. His hands were trembling. "Get out." "What?" "Get out of my house. Now." Carol laughed. A sharp, ugly sound. "You're choosing her over me? After everything I've done for you? Fine. My lawyer will take everything you have left. The house, your retirement, everything. Your lawyer," I said quietly, "can talk to Detective Morrison." She froze. "What?" "Detective Angela Morrison, Financial Crimes Unit, 22 years on the force." I kept my voice steady even though my heart was racing. "I sent her everything 2 weeks ago. All the evidence, bank fraud, wire fraud, identity theft, filing a false police report for insurance money." Carol's face went from angry to terrified in about 2 seconds. "You called the police on me? They've been building the case. They wanted to wait until you made another withdrawal. Catch you in the act. But you forced this tonight. I paused. When you found my folder, she looked at Dad, then at me. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. They told me you'd panic when confronted, I said. That you'd probably confess something. Get defensive. Show your true self. I pulled my phone from my pocket. The screen showed a recording app. Timer. 001437. I've been recording this entire conversation. Carol grabbed her purse. Her hands were shaking so badly she dropped her keys twice. She didn't even try to take her coat. We heard her car start, heard the tires screech as she peeled out of the driveway, going way too fast. Dad sank into a kitchen chair, put his head in his hands. Red and blue lights flashed through the kitchen window. That was fast, he whispered. They've been parked down the street, I said, waiting in case she tried to run. Let me back up. My name is Lily Okonkwo, 17 years old, junior at Lincoln Prep, daughter of David and the late Michelle Okonkwo. My mother died of pancreatic cancer when I was 15. 4 months from diagnosis to funeral. The fastest, cruelest timeline imaginable. One day she was making dinner and complaining about back pain. 4 months later, I was standing in a cemetery watching them lower her coffin into the ground. The only thing that got me through it was knowing she'd planned for this. She'd seen the diagnosis, known the odds, and in those 4 months, while her body failed, she'd made sure I'd be taken care of. A trust fund, $200,000, set aside specifically for my education. For Lily's future, the document said, to be used for college expenses, housing, books, and educational opportunities. She'd talked to me about it the week before she died, held my hand with fingers that had gotten so thin and pale. This money is for you, she said. Your education, your dreams. Don't let anyone take that away from you. I promised her I wouldn't. 14 months later, my father married Carol. Carol Winters was everything my mother wasn't. Mom was warm, chaotic, the kind of person who left dishes in the sink and stayed up late reading. Carol was polished, put together, the kind of woman who color coordinated her closet and had opinions about thread counts. She'd been a client at Dad's accounting firm, divorced, no kids, looking for a fresh start. They started dating 8 months after Mom died, engaged at 10 months, married at 14. I hated her from the beginning, but I told myself it was grief, that I was being unfair, that Dad deserved to be happy and Carol was making an effort. She tried to cook Mom's recipes, tried to ask about my day, tried to be a presence without being a replacement. I kept my distance, civil but cold. I figured that was the best I could manage. The red flags were there from the start. I just didn't want to see them. First flag, the jewelry. 3 months after the wedding, Mom's engagement ring disappeared. Carol said she'd seen it in my parents' bedroom and put it in the safe for protection. When Dad asked about it later, she said it must have been stolen. Probably the cleaning service. I knew that was wrong. Mom's ring was in a jewelry box in my room. Had been since she died. It couldn't have been in my parents' bedroom because it was never there. But I didn't say anything. Didn't want to start a fight. Told myself maybe I was remembering wrong. Second flag, the questions. Carol started asking about my trust fund. Casual questions. Slipped into dinner conversations. How much did your mother leave you? Who manages the account? When can you access the money? I answered vaguely. Something about the questions felt wrong, but I couldn't articulate why. Third flag, the mail. I noticed Carol checking the mailbox every day, racing to get there before Dad or me, sorting through everything herself, taking certain envelopes to her office before anyone could see them. I told myself she was just organized. Type A, the kind of person who needed to be in control. Fourth flag, the attitude shift. About 6 months after the wedding, Carol stopped trying. The warm stepmother act disappeared. She became cold, dismissive, started picking fights with me over nothing. The way I loaded the dishwasher, the volume of my music, the hours I spent in my room. Dad said she was stressed, adjusting, that I should give her space. I gave her space. And while I was giving her space, she was stealing my mother's legacy. I found out by accident. February of this year, I was applying for a summer program at Northwestern, a 6-week journalism intensive that cost $8,000. The application required a financial statement showing I could cover the fees. I called the bank that managed my trust, asked them to send documentation of my account balance. The representative, Mr. Okafor, Trust Services Manager, sounded confused. Miss Okonkwo, are you aware that there have been significant withdrawals from this account? What? No, what withdrawals? I shouldn't discuss this over the phone. Can you come in? With your father, preferably. I went alone, told Dad I had a study group. Mr. Okafor showed me the records. 18 months of withdrawals. $10,000 each month, like clockwork. Transferred to an external account ending in 7734. These were authorized by the trustee, he explained. Your father signed the papers. My father wouldn't do this. He knows that money is for college. The signatures appear legitimate. But if there's been fraud, he paused. You should speak with him. And possibly law enforcement. I sat in my car in the bank parking lot for an hour, trying to process what I'd learned. $162,000. Gone. Transferred to an account I'd never heard of. I could have confronted Dad right then, demanded answers, accused him of stealing my inheritance. But something stopped me. Some instinct that said, wait, investigate. Make sure you know what you're dealing with before you make accusations. My mother was a journalist. Get the facts first, she always said. Then get more facts. Then get confirmation of those facts. Only then do you write the story. I decided to get the facts. The investigation took 93 days. I started with the account number, 7734. If Dad was stealing from me, I needed to know. But if someone else was behind this, I needed proof. I checked our recycling bin on garbage day. Carol had thrown away a bank statement from First National, careless, but consistent with her belief that I was too stupid to notice anything. Account number ending in 7734. Name on the account, Carol Winters Okonkwo. My stomach dropped, but I needed more than one bank statement. I needed the full picture. Over the next 3 months, I became a spy in my own home. I photographed every document Carol threw away. Bank statements, credit card bills, letters from investment firms. I found the password to her home computer, written on a post-it note in her desk drawer, which felt almost insultingly easy, and screenshotted her email correspondence. That's where I found Marcus Chen, some guy she'd been messaging for almost 2 years before she even married my father. Their emails read like a business plan, how she'd met a lonely widower with money, how there was a trust fund she could access, how she'd drain it slowly and join Marcus in Costa Rica once the job was done. April at the latest, she'd written 3 months ago. The kid will be 18 by then. She'll never know what happened until it's too late. I found the pawn shop receipts in her office. Mom's jewelry, her grandmother's bracelet, which had survived 2 world wars and the Holocaust, sold for $85,000 to a shop downtown. Carol had filed a police report claiming the items were stolen, collected insurance money, double-dipped. I documented everything, created the folder, organized it by category and date, made multiple backups, cloud storage, USB drives, even printed copies hidden in my locker at school. Then, I contacted the police. Detective Angela Morrison was skeptical at first. Financial Crimes Unit, 22 years on the force. She'd seen a lot of family disputes dressed up as fraud allegations. "You're 17, she said at our first meeting, living with your father and stepmother. Is it possible this is a misunderstanding? I have bank records showing $162,000 transferred from my trust to her personal account. Your father is the trustee. He authorized those transfers. I don't think he knew what he was signing. Carol handles all their paperwork. She tells him where to sign and he signs." Detective Morrison looked at my folder, flipped through the pages. "This is thorough. My mother was a journalist. She taught me how to build a story. This isn't a story. If these allegations are true, it's fraud, wire fraud, identity theft, insurance fraud for the jewelry claim." She set down the folder. "Do you understand what happens if we pursue this? Your stepmother could go to prison. Your family will be destroyed. My family was destroyed when my mother died. Carol is just finishing the job." Detective Morrison studied me for a long moment. "I'm going to need to verify all of this independently. If it checks out, we'll open an investigation." The investigation took 6 weeks. Detective Morrison brought in Patricia Oyalaran, a forensic accountant with 18 years of experience tracking financial crimes. She traced every transaction, confirmed the account ownership, verified the email metadata. "It's all legitimate," she told me during one of our meetings. "The evidence is solid. Your stepmother has been systematically draining your trust fund for 18 months. What happens now? We build the case, document everything, then we arrest her. When? We want to catch her making another withdrawal. Proof of ongoing criminal activity strengthens the prosecution." Detective Morrison paused. "Can you wait? Keep acting normal? Not let her know we're watching?" I'd been keeping secrets for 3 months already. "I can wait." I didn't expect Carol to find my folder. I'd been careful. Password protected everything. Kept the laptop in my room when I wasn't using it, but I got careless. One night, I left my laptop open while I went to the bathroom. Carol must have walked by, seen the screen, recognized her bank statement. By the time I realized what had happened, she was already waking up my father. "Your daughter is stalking me. She's been going through my personal information. Look at this. Screenshots of my bank accounts, my emails. This is sick. This is harassment." She played it perfectly, crying, victimized, the concerned stepmother who'd discovered her stepdaughter's dangerous obsession. And Dad believed her. Of course he did. He'd believed everything she told him for 2 years, but she'd made one mistake. She confronted me while the police were watching. The arrest happened in the driveway. Carol didn't make it 2 blocks before Detective Morrison's unit pulled her over. She was still in her pajamas, no shoes, driving erratically enough to justify the stop even without the warrant. They found her phone in her purse. The last message sent to Marcus said, "It's over. She found everything. I'm gone. Meet me at the airport." Marcus, it turned out, was already under surveillance. The Costa Rica plan had been on law enforcement's radar for weeks. Carol was charged with wire fraud, bank fraud, identity theft, filing a false police report, and insurance fraud. The DA added elder abuse charges after learning she'd done something similar to a previous husband, a widower whose late wife's jewelry had also mysteriously disappeared. She'd been running this scam for years. My father was just the latest victim. The trial was 8 months later. Carol pleaded not guilty initially, claimed the evidence was fabricated, claimed I'd hacked her accounts and created false documents. Her lawyer argued that a 17-year-old couldn't possibly have assembled such a detailed case. There must be coaching, manipulation, conspiracy. But the evidence spoke for itself. Mr. Okafor from the bank testified about the withdrawals. The pawn shop owner identified Carol from the security footage. Marcus, who'd who'd cut a deal for a reduced sentence, confirmed their plan in exhaustive detail. And then there was my recording, the audio from that night in the kitchen, Carol's own voice, admitting everything. I needed that money. Your father was lonely and desperate. The insurance money was just sitting there. The trust was just sitting there. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all counts. Carol was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. She'd serve at least 5 before becoming eligible for parole. The restitution order required her to pay back every penny she'd stolen, $247,000 total, including the jewelry and insurance fraud. Her assets were seized, her bank accounts frozen. The Costa Rica dream died in a courtroom in downtown Chicago. I watched the verdict from the gallery, watched her face crumble when the judge read the sentence, watched her turn to look for allies and find none. She caught my eye just before they led her away. I didn't look away. The aftermath was complicated. Dad and I didn't speak for 3 weeks after Carol's arrest. He couldn't process it, couldn't reconcile the woman he'd married with the criminal I'd exposed. Some part of him wanted to believe it was still a misunderstanding, still something that could be explained away. "Why didn't you come to me?" he asked finally, sitting across from me at the kitchen table where everything had fallen apart. "Why did you go to the police instead of your own father?" "Because I didn't know if you were involved." He flinched like I'd hit him. "You thought I was stealing from you?" I didn't know what to think. Carol controlled everything, all the paperwork, all the accounts. She told you where to sign and you signed. For all I knew, you knew exactly what was happening. I would never. I know that now, but I didn't know it then. I took a breath. And honestly, I wasn't sure you'd believe me even if I told you. You believed everything she said. For 2 years, whatever Carol told you, you believed. He was quiet for a long time. "I loved your mother," he said finally, "more than anything in this world. When she died, I didn't know how to function. Carol was there. She was kind. She made the pain stop, at least for a while. I know. I missed things I should have seen. I trusted someone I shouldn't have trusted. And I let you down." His voice broke. "I let your mother down. She asked me to take care of you, and I let someone steal your future. The money's coming back. The restitution order, it's not about the money, Lily. It's about you, about what you had to do. A 17-year-old shouldn't have to investigate her own stepmother, shouldn't have to build a criminal case while living in the same house as the person she's investigating." He wiped his eyes. "I failed you. I'm so sorry. I didn't say it was okay. It wasn't okay. Nothing about the past 2 years had been okay." But I reached across the table and took his hand. "We're still here," I said. "That's what matters. It's been a year now. The trust fund has been partially restored, about $180,000 so far, with more expected as Carol's assets continue to be liquidated. Enough for college. Enough for the future my mother wanted me to have. I got into Northwestern. Full ride, actually. Turns out the admissions committee was impressed by my demonstrated resilience and investigative skills. They offered me a spot in their journalism program with a scholarship that covers everything the trust doesn't. Dad's doing better. He sees a therapist twice a week, goes to a support group for fraud victims. He's learning to trust himself again, to recognize the signs he missed before. We're learning to be a family again, just the two of us. The way it was before cancer took my mom, and loneliness made my dad vulnerable. Sometimes I think about Carol in her prison cell, about the woman who held my hand at my mother's grave and told me she'd look after me, about how convincing she was, how complete the performance. I don't feel sorry for her. She made her choices. She knew exactly what she was doing. She'd done it before and would have done it again. But I think about what my mother would say, about finding the truth, no matter how painful, about never letting anyone take what belongs to you. She'd be proud, I think, of the case I built, of the justice I found, of the strength I didn't know I had.